Jordan. We are back. We are live. We are ready to roll. Soccerwise is here. NWSL edition on a Wednesday. I am finally arrived and set up and ready to go. You have been busy and doing things, and we were not able to do our show last week. And now we are back, and it feels good. You're dry, which I assume is a big deal after the last 7 days you've had. And I feel back in the flow.
I know. Yes, I am dry. It was funny at the game in Orlando. I was doing sideline and it was pouring the whole game. So much so, Goss, that my fingers were wrinkly, like pruning up. You know that it's a lot of rain when that's the case. So
it's when your parents would tell you you should have come inside earlier.
Yes. So it's nice to be dry and no rain for right now, but I hope everything's okay with you. It's nice to be in a apartment, but not the greatest time to be in Florida. So yeah, thoughts for everybody down there as they get prepared for this big storm coming.
Yes, I believe it is called Milton. I got my first Milton message because you get messages. I've just moved to Miami for anyone who doesn't know. And I thought it was for the wrong person. Like, update on Milton was what it said. And I was like, oh, that's not my name. And then I realized that it was about the storm. So yes, we are hoping for the best for everyone who is in the path. And we are hoping for the best for everyone in general. It is supposed to not be so bad near where I am. So that is very fortunate. Everyone in Miami has told me a million times, it's not always like this. Well, I've been here for like 3 weeks. We've had 3 hurricanes. So I don't really know what your point is there, but it's fine. At least we don't get snow. So when we get to December and January, I can appreciate it a little bit more. Orlando got the rain on Sunday, but they also got the Shield. It was a pretty big day. That's why you were in the building. We are obviously going to dig into that, talk all about it, talk about your experience and this team and what this season has been. If you haven't, we did a sit-down interview 2 weeks ago with Haley Carter, who helped put this roster together and build this culture, and talked a lot about, you could sort of sense and feel how you turn an organization around, how you build an organization just off the language you use, the vocabulary, the way she talks about people. So I highly recommend going to listen to that if you have not. And unfortunately, on the other side, still big news around Washington, and it continues to be injury news. So we'll dig into that. We'll talk about that on this show here today. And we'll talk about the news coming out of Angel City, because we've not been on since they were caught for salary cap violations, and then the punishment was announced by NWSL. We'll talk about what happened, what we think about it, and sort of what the future could be going forward. And then got another big weekend of NWSL action. So 2 more weekends in regular season before the international break. Then when we come back, the weekend of November 2nd sort of is the final weekend of the regular season. And then we're into the playoffs. Our first one to cover here at Soccerwise as we head towards a championship in Kansas City, which is going to be incredible. Casey Current would like to be a part of it. Unsure if that will happen, but there are a lot of strong contenders. And I just did an interview with a coach for our Friday show. We're going to have Ben Pierman on, who's head coach of Charleston. And obviously I don't live in a Northeast place anymore, but he mentioned playoffs and like the calendar turning. And I was like, college soccer has come back. Like, it's that time of year. And I got a little bit of a chill to be like, you don't get it when it's 85 every day now as much, but you get that chill of like, oh, it's that time of year.
Yeah, you just feel it. When it's cooler at nighttime, you're getting ready to go watch a game, and you're like, it means a little bit more. And I love that time of year here in the fall. And there's a lot to play for still in NWSL.
There's a crispness under the lights that is different when it is that fall and when you're into a playoff race. We have our first officially eliminated team in Houston, who are not going to make the playoffs this year, which was something we probably all could have told you before, but now is official. We also had North Carolina officially clinch their spot in the playoffs. But for Houston, the first team out, they also have finally announced that Fran Alonso has left the club, was hired as head coach, coached for about a month and a half, stepped away from the team for reasons we don't know, and has been in absentia. Is that a term?
Oh, wow. I have no idea.
I shouldn't have jumped off that ledge.
It should be.
Okay, well, he's been in absentia then is what I'm going to go with since then, and then finally officially stepped away from the club. It's obviously not a surprise. It is not really breaking news. It is a positive that it is done. This is one of the weirdest things I have seen around sports for a while, of just the unknown nature of it. And this club just needs some firm footing to step forward with.
It feels like it's too little too late. It was going to already be a really difficult season for Houston regardless, just with their build and trying to play a totally different style of soccer under Alonso. But then the uncertainty felt like put them in a really difficult place as players. It put the interim in a difficult place and Ricky Clark, because you don't know how long you're going to be in charge and what extent of am I hiding everything I need to hide when it comes to knowledge about what's actually going on. And that's a lot of weight
Yeah.
to bear. And for in Houston's credit, they played Chicago on Friday, and I was on the Chicago local feed call. It was another game where Chicago just defensively did really well. I think Houston had over 3 xG, so they created opportunities, could not score, and that was just on the heels of announcing that Fran Alonso was no longer going to be the head coach of the team. So you just wish that this boost would have come a little bit earlier, and they would have been able to live in this area of like, all right, Ricky Clark is our interim. We know that he's taking care of us. They're giving him some direction, and we're not going to see that because there's only 3 games left. They're going to do everything that they can, but you just wish it would have happened 2 months ago even, to give this team a little bit of hope to really band together and try to make something happen.
Yeah, and you talk about for Ricky Clark, like the comments when you hear them post game press conferences, like dancing this line of like, this is what I believe, just on field, like tactical stuff. But it could, and like he kind of was leaving the door open to like, it's not really my decision, or I don't know that I can say that I'm putting permanent things in place because I don't know that I can say that I'm here or someone else isn't here. Like there has been a lot of really weird stuff that's been really tough to deal with. And obviously we've seen the effect of it on the team. In absentia, by the way, it is at least a real term. And so it,
Good, quick search there.
Thank you. I was trying to get on it. So the official news there for Houston. So eliminated. I believe Sophie Schmidt signed a contract extension as well. That was announced over the last week. And now moving forward, we talked a little bit about potential candidates for them in the future. As we've sort of talked about all of them, there's a list of names out there. So you can go back and listen to those shows and listen to those segments as well. But let's dig into the big news. Let's talk Shield winners. Orlando Pride. 2017, they finished 7th in NWSL. That was their best finish over the last 8 years until they continued their undefeated season. They knock off Washington Spirit this weekend 2-0 at home and win the Shield for the first time in their club's history. Jordan, you were there. You were rained on. You were in the building. Give us an idea of the experience of like what the weekend was like, how the club was, sort of what the atmosphere was.
It was great. It was the whole day had this like anticipation about it. I talked to Haley Carter, I got to talk to Seb Hines and Giles Barnes before the game, and everybody was just like, all right, we're ready for it. We're ready to play the game. And the fact that they got to do it at home in front of their fans, I think you saw that with the comments that Marta had after the game, where she said, this is for you, for everybody that comes to every single game. And you've been here through everything. You know, we want this, but we also want more. So you could sense the anticipation and a little bit of a bummer. Like it was raining. It wasn't the best atmosphere to get a huge crowd on hand, but there was a lot of people there and they were as loud as they could be. And I think it just made the game that much more fun. And I think, did you see any of the pictures from it because it was raining? Like they're pretty cool pictures. I feel like it gave some.
Oh, the drama when you see like
the
the
drama
rain
of the water flying everywhere. But on the field, it's so impressive when you're sitting there watching Orlando play on a TV screen. But when you're there and you see how they are so good at dominating how the game is going to get played. Like they were in control of that game. I don't know. I wouldn't say that there was a moment where you felt like Washington is going to find their way into this game. It felt like whether they were defending at the beginning and trying to figure out, how they break Washington down to when they started finding some success going forward, it was just going to be Orlando. You just knew that they were in control, right? They had the game controller and they were pushing all the right buttons, and they finally found a way to pull through. So it just was a cool atmosphere to be a part of, cool to be a part of the Shield ceremony, and get to watch Marta lift the Shield in person.
Yeah, Marta, obviously, big name, big story, but the perseverance to stay with this club
Yeah.
since 2017. And she talks about people coming every game. Like, she knows who those people are, right? She's been there. She's been there through a lot of downtime. So for her to be a part of this team, and we've talked about it this year, to feel revitalized, like we can feel it in the way when you watch her, the way she's playing and the way it feels compared to, you know, the last few years. But then you go to like her peaks and what she's done for Brazil and in big tournaments and all that type of stuff. She gets the goal off the penalty, which is technically the winning goal. And like all of that stuff is storybook. That's what you wanted. And I think you could sense, and she sort of said a pregame to you of like, they wanted to do it today, or they wanted to do it on Sunday and not have it be on the road this weekend.
Yes, exactly. And I thought that it was hard from Washington. It's always going to be hard for Washington, right? Because of, we'll get into some of what they were, their hands were tied with the number of players that they had available. But for Orlando, I just think their 4-4-2 works out really well. And what they ask of those two central midfielders, it was Gatra and Angelina to start with in this game. And their positioning just pulls apart an opponent's midfield and was asking a lot of Sullivan and Hatch and then Sainbrook to cover the ground. And I think that that's where you started to see Orlando really toy, is making those players make mistakes and dive in, and then they could manipulate the players in front. And although Adriana gets that second goal, right, it's a deflection off of a defender. And what was, I think, a really smart play, because when it's raining that much, Goss, what do you need to do? You just kind of shoot.
Take shots. Right.
Take shots. Like, you can get lucky with a deflection.
And she sort of hits it low, but off the ground, so it can take a bounce or deflection.
Yeah, and you are following up. All the little things that you're told when you're small, I think Orlando took advantage of those. And so did they credit her a goal, or was it an own goal?
I have not checked. Wait, let me.
Yeah.
No, it's an own goal.
Yeah, but so she creates that goal, but I thought throughout all of the game, it was really interesting to watch where she popped up. Sometimes she would occupy center back. Sometimes she would go all the way in the channel. Sometimes she'd float in the half space. She does so much for this team that I think goes unrecognized by a lot of people, and her stats are not Banda stats. They're not Marta stats this year. But man, I really enjoyed watching her play in real life with her right there in front of me.
Yeah, we saw at the start of the year, before Banda and Marta were really in this group, we saw her play as a 10. You see her ability, it feels like, especially with Corey Dyke out there, to understand when to be in the channel, when to be on the end line, when to come inside, where the overloads are, and then when to take advantage of space. She is that third option, which means you can't commit too many numbers to Marta and Banda, and that feels like a huge part of this attack. I talk a lot about, to me, sort of Orlando's amoeba of like, you said it, they control the way a game is played without traditionally controlling possession the way you're used to seeing. What were you hearing from Seb Hines as you're watching them play in person, of like how they're reacting to the way the game's being played and what they thought they were doing?
Yeah, he was in the first half frustrated with the decision making. He thought that they were a little slow to be decisive, that it didn't matter what the decision that they were making as they were building up, but he just wanted them to make the decisions quicker. And I think and then it was frustration in the box, because in the first half there were multiple chances Orlando could have already been up before the first 45 whistle blew. And so those were where the frustrations lie. And I think that is the standard that you're just talking about, that they can control the tempo of the game. So in order to do that, when you have the ball, you must be decisive. You must make a decision and stick with it, instead of being on the ball a little too much. And then with the conditions too, you can't get caught with the ball at your foot, because you're going to get tackled, and you never know where the ball is going to pop to. So I think those were the frustrations that I was hearing from Orlando's sideline, and Seb Hines in particular.
We'll talk about Washington, the injuries they have, but they never really looked like they would win with the way the game played out, but they put